Chapter 23. Medical. James feared a heart attack, but Emily had only collapsed from shock. He rode in the back of her squalling ambulance, holding her hand while another vehicle dealt with Elliot and Ronnie. Ronnie remained unconscious. Elliot's blood loss looked dramatic, but the ambulance crew said the wound was unlikely to be fatal. When they arrived at a modern casualty unit, all three patients got wheeled away. James found himself abandoned in a busy waiting room, with a bare chest and Elliot's dried-out blood staining his fingers. He felt okay, but he was shaken up, and the skin on his arms stung in a couple of spots where the boiling water had splashed him. He called Judith, who arrived within 10 minutes, accompanied by Ween. While Judith dashed off to find Elliot, Ween stayed with James and started an interrogation. He'd not previously realised that the grey-haired woman was one of the survivors' lawyers. After telling Ween the whole truth, she immediately began reinventing it. "Did anyone call the police?" Ween asked. James shook his head. "Elliot said not to. I told the emergency operator there'd been an accident." "Excellent stuff." Ween nodded. "If the cops do get involved, you say you were in the bathroom and that you saw nothing. We run that nursing home. I'll make sure none of the staff speak out of turn. Elliot will say it was a bizarre accident. He was carrying out the kettle and slipped into Ronnie, who was holding the knife. Ronnie's unlikely to complain about us covering things up, when the truth would put him on trial for attempted murder. And the old girl won't want to see her son locked away." James was confused. "Why are we doing this?" "Why?" Ween smiled. "Can you imagine what the press would do if they got hold of a story like this? Survivors make an 87-year-old woman change her will. Jealous son turns up and stabs commune director. It could turn into a national scandal and cost us millions in lost revenue." "But," James gasped, totally aghast. Ween cut him dead and spoke strictly. "Understand this, James. If the devils get their hooks into our organisation, they'll rip us to shreds. This is an attack on the survivors, straight from the lowest depths of hell." James remembered that he was on a mission and tried to think what an angel should say under the circumstances. "Maybe I should pray." Ween nodded. "That's a good idea. What's Emily's room number?" 86. Ween ripped out her mobile, phoned the commune, and began barking orders. "I want 2 people over to the North Park Elder Care Community, room 86. I want the whole room scrubbed with bleach and hot water, including the garden furniture and the patio. Make sure you find the kettle and collect all the pieces of plastic." "No, Lyle, not in half an hour. Do it now. I'm heading back with James. If you hear a sniff of anything from the police or the media, you know nothing. Understood?" The commune always crawled with gossip. Lauren heard that something had happened to Elliot during dinner. Then she bumped into Dana, who'd heard that James was involved. By the time she'd got upstairs to her first-floor dorm for homework hour, everyone was talking about it. But apparently the only solid fact was that Elliot had been taken to hospital. Lauren was taking an outdoor shortcut to the gym when she spotted Paul and cornered him in a sunlit alleyway. "Where's my brother?" Lauren asked. "Why didn't he come back from the care home with you?" Paul shook his head and made a gesture, like he was zipping up his mouth. "Sorry, Lauren. I've been sworn to secrecy." Paul moved to walk off, but Lauren blocked his path. "Is my brother okay, Paul? I have to know." "He's not hurt. I can tell you that much." Lauren still wanted the whole story. "But what actually happened over there?" I can't tell you. Wayne swore me to silence. They'll probably make an official announcement later. Paul stepped forwards, but Lauren blocked his path again. Quit doing that, Paul said sharply. Lauren was desperate to know what was going on. She took a quick glance around to make sure nobody was about, then grabbed Paul's wrist. She twisted his arm up behind his back and shoved him against the wall. Paul had a couple of years on Lauren, but couldn't break the expertly held arm lock. Paul seemed like a nice kid, and she didn't want to hurt him, but she had to know if James was in any danger. Oh, I've sworn an oath, Paul gasped. You can hurt me all you like. The devil will do 1 billion times worse to me if I break my oath. Lauren tightened the hold, making Paul gasp in pain. She was worried that he might be so strongly under the survivor's influence that he'd rather suffer a broken arm than break an oath. Oh, please, Paul begged, almost crying. Please don't make me break my oath. Lauren didn't have the stomach, either to break Paul's arm or for the trouble it would cause. She let him go and backed off. Oh, what's your problem? Paul screamed, humiliated and trying not to sob. I told you he's not hurt. What more do you want? Everything, Lauren said, with a sense of desperation that was exaggerated, but not entirely false. You've got a brother. Wouldn't you want to know if something happened to Rick? The emotional tug had more of an effect on Paul than the arm lock, making Lauren wish she'd used this tactic first. Okay, Paul said, thinking hard. Wayne made me swear not to say anything about what happened, but I guess I can tell you where James is. Then you can find out for yourself. But you've got to swear not to say it was me that told you. Lauren nodded. I swear as an angel on pain of eternity in a fiery hell. Paul seemed reassured by this oath, which was as strong as they come in survivor speak. James is over in Elliot's office. Is Elliot there? No, but Wayne's around. Lauren smiled. Right, I'll go and see him. You'd be better off leaving it, Paul said. Wayne's going crazy. You'll get punished if you stick your nose in. Lauren lied to reassure Paul. Okay, I'll leave it for a while and see if they make an announcement. You're a good guy, Paul. I'm sorry I hurt you. It didn't hurt much, Paul lied. But I'll report you if you pull a stunt like that again. Lauren thought everything through as Paul headed off to play basketball on one of the outdoor courts. She would have liked to ask Dana or Abigail for advice, but they were both on washing up duty, and she knew there was no chance of a private conversation in the commune's chaotic kitchen. Besides, if she got caught, she could just say that she overheard someone who'd seen James going into Elliot's office. Lauren headed inside the mall and towards the offices at the far end of the ground floor. The corridors were busy, and she'd learned that you had to move purposefully around the commune unless you wanted a bunch of over-helpful angels asking what you were up to. She passed through the open plan offices where she'd taken her aptitude test a few weeks earlier and found them deserted. The trouble was, she'd never gone past this point and didn't know what to expect beyond the double doors that led to the senior staff's private offices. After poking her head through the door for a cautious glance, Lauren stepped into a reassuringly empty corridor, containing a water cooler and piles of stationery. There was a glass-fronted office on either side of her, with Venetian blinds blocking off the view inside. She crept between a photocopier and a stack of boxed paper and peeked between the slats into the office on her left. She felt a rush of nerves and ducked down when she saw Wayne, sitting at her desk having a highly animated telephone conversation. It took Lauren a couple of seconds to get her composure back. She popped her head above the copier paper and took a longer look. There was no sign of James, so she stepped across the corridor and looked into the other office. James was on a sofa, with the back of his head touching the glass. Lauren was tempted to rap on the glass and make him jump, but these were hardly the right circumstances. She crept around and stepped into the office. James looked well scrubbed. His hair was wet, and he wore nothing but trainers and his favourite pair of ragged denim shorts. "What's going on?" Lauren whispered, as her brother turned and smiled at her. James explained briefly, keeping to the essential details. He told Lauren to find Dana and Abigail and tell them everything. But Wayne came into the room before she got a chance to leave. "What are you doing here?" Wayne said, so fiercely that her opening words sounded like a whip cracking. Lauren played the innocent little sister, making herself sound scared and whiny. "I was frightened that the devils had got my brother. I came to make sure he was okay." Wayne huffed, but then her mood changed abruptly. "Oh well, I was about to call your mother up here anyway." "What for?" James asked. "Remember the aptitude test you sat the day after you arrived?" "Now you mention it, yeah." "Well, I'm pleased to say that your test results were outstanding. Your mark was easily high enough for you to ascend to our elite boarding school inside the Ark. Unfortunately, the Ark is undergoing a lot of rebuilding work, and the school isn't currently accepting new pupils. However, present circumstances dictate that it would be a sensible precaution if you were taken out of this area until the incident with Elliot blows over. I've explained the situation to Eleanor Regan, and she's agreed to accept you into the survivors' boarding school as a special case." James's mind raced. He was well pleased to get into the boarding school, but the mission plan had been based upon 2, or even all 3, agents being accepted. "Wow," James gasped. "I've heard about the school. It's like a massive honour. Only—" Wayne screwed up her face. "Only what?" "I don't know," James shrugged. "My dad buggered off, then we moved out here, then we moved to the commune. Now you want me to go off into the outback." "James," Wayne said reassuringly, "your family isn't Lauren, Dana, and Abigail anymore. You have a family of angels, 10,000 strong." "I know," James shrugged sullenly, looking down at the carpet. "It's not that I don't want to go. I just think I'd be scared going all that way on my own." Lauren realised what James was trying to do and butted in. "Did I pass the test?" she asked enthusiastically. "I'd love to go to the Ark, and I could keep James company." Wayne looked stressed out. She clearly didn't relish the prospect of having to call Eleanor Regan and ask her to accept another pupil. But on the other hand, she desperately wanted to hush up the whole thing with Elliot. James being hundreds of kilometres away in the middle of the outback greatly reduced the chances of him opening his mouth to someone he shouldn't. Wayne looked at James and spoke firmly. "If I call the Ark and try getting them to accept Lauren too, will you both definitely agree to go?" "What about Dana too?" Lauren asked. "No," Wayne said with surprising firmness. "There's no prospect of Dana going. She's been chosen for another path within our movement." James and Lauren exchanged a quick glance, hardly able to avoid grinning at each other. "Well, I guess I'll go with Lauren," James said. "As long as it's okay with our mum."